Hey, Emmanuel, can
Hey,
you
can
hear
you
us?
hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you so much for taking my questions. Maybe a first question for Elon on your pricing strategy. So if I understand your message, you're saying, Tesla feels it's worth maximizing the volume, increasing the size of the fleet as fast as you can because you'll be able to monetize this over the life cycle of the vehicle. Can you be a little bit more specific around ways you would be able to monetize sort of like this existing fleet in the future? Obviously, I think autonomous seems to be a big piece of it. By my understanding was that robotaxi would probably be for the next generation vehicle, not the existing one. So I guess in which ways would you monetize it?
Sorry, the robotaxi terminology can be a bit confusing because that's sort of like a generic term for our next generation vehicle. And we obviously are working on a next generation vehicle. It's going to be very compelling. This is just not the time to talk about it in detail as a product. So we internally call it robotaxi, but really all of the vehicles that have hardware 3, which is the vast majority of our fleet, we believe will achieve full autonomy. So they will be like a Model 3 or Model Y would be a robotaxi, a robotic taxi. So yeah, that's to the best of my knowledge that we believe the current hardware can achieve full autonomy.
Understood. And then maybe a question for Zach, back on the automotive gross margin. So I guess a few months ago, even after major price cuts, you felt pretty strongly that 20% automotive gross margin was still probably a reasonable floor. Obviously, the macro has gone worse, and additional price cuts have happened. Is there anything else that has changed in terms of the outlook? Is it just the macro deteriorating? Is it the competitive landscape? Anything else that sort of like makes you think differently around the full year? And is there a way therefore to frame a floor?
Yeah, about half of the miss against that previous conversation last quarter is attributed to adjustments we made in pricing in the second half of the quarter. I guess you could argue that lowers the floor in a sense. We've also made pricing adjustments so far this quarter, so that brings it down further. About the other half of the miss in Q1 was attributed to things that are non-recurring. So I mentioned these in my opening remarks. It's a warranty adjustment for cars that were previously produced, but not part of the pedigree of cars we're building now. And some autopilot-related deferrals as we make some technology changes here that those deferrals should get recognized once some of the software catches up. So those two things are non-repeating. So hopefully that helps answer your question.
Yeah, there's really two macro factors that are tricky. The biggest being the interest rate. So if there's a very high Fed rate or interest rates are very high, that is every time that the Fed raises interest rates, that's equivalent to increasing the price of a car. It makes the cars less affordable because people are able to buy cars as a function of what they can afford on a monthly basis. So it's just almost directly equivalent to a price increase is any kind of interest rate increase. Then the other factor is whenever there's uncertainty in the economy, people will generally postpone new capital purchases like a new car. This is a natural human reaction. So if people are reading about layoffs and whatnot in the press, they're like, well, they might be worried about they might be laid off, so then they'll be naturally a little more hesitant than they would otherwise be to buy a new car. Now this is just the nature of the auto industry. But there will be a tremendous amount of pent up demand for new cars. So, but it goes through cycles.
Thank you. Let's go to Ben Kallo from Baird. Ben, go ahead and unmute.
Hey guys, Elon, when you talk about many fish to fry, you talked about Dojo being a product that you can sell outside of Tesla. How do we rank all the things you have going on, and then in the economic environment? I mean, like heat pumps and everything else you have going on versus investing in the vehicle business, or is that not the right way to look at it?
I'm not sure I fully understand your question, but I'd look at Dojo as like kind of a long shot bet. But if it's a long shot bet that pays off, it'll pay off in a very, very big way. But potentially, potentially in a very, very big way. Like, in the multi-$100 billion level. But the thing with still put it in the long shot category, but long shot with a multi-$100 billion, potential outcome. And so it's a bet worth making, but not one you can sort of say like, oh, take it to the bank type of thing. Although these days, take it to the bank, it's maybe not as secure as it used to be. And obviously we're big believers in heat pumps, and that is on our list that, over time is to do a really good heat pump for homes and, commercial offices and stuff. And we have the technology; it's really good. But it's still a back burner item. Our focus is very much on vehicles, autonomy, stationary storage, basically solving sustainable energy and solving autonomy, which would be like I said, solving autonomy. If we're able to have a fleet of several million vehicles that, with a software update, can be potentially worth several times their original value, that will be, if that happens, that will be and I think it will happen. That'll be the biggest asset value increase in history, I think.
Thank you. Just on pricing, a lot of pundits talk about the pie and losing share or gaining share, but how do you guys look at pricing versus EVs or ICE vehicles, or does that not come into the equation? Sorry to ask about pricing again. Thank you.
No, it's really just like, we're every day we get a daily real-time update of how many cars were ordered yesterday, how many cars were produced yesterday. We must have if there's a company that's got more real-time data than Tesla, I'm not sure there's any company on earth that has better real-time data than Tesla, except maybe SpaceX, Starlink. So because we don't have to, for the other car companies, they will make the cars, send them to the dealers, then the dealers will sell the cars, and and then it takes quite a long time for them to get the data back to actually figure out how many cars were sold. Whereas we know how many cars were ordered yesterday throughout the world. So our fingers on the pulse is real time and does not have latency, whereas the other car companies have a lot of latency in their data, as does the government. The government has a lot of latency in their data. So we're just looking at and saying, okay, what does it take to achieve a clearing price for our vehicle production? And then we make a pricing change and we see what happens immediately, and adjust course. So we're adjusting course, and we're thinking about it literally every day, 7 days a week. Every 7 days a week, I look at that email, and so does the rest of the team. And we try to make the least dumb decision that we can. And on balance, I think our decisions are pretty good. Sometimes they'll be, dumb, but on average, they're, I think, better than the rest of the industry.
Just to add on the question about EV market share or ICE, this comes up a lot. I think a lot of the public debate is around this concept of EV market share. We don't look at it that way. I mean, we look at it as market share of cars. It's the car market, not the EV market. And actually, the mission of the company requires internal combustion engine cars to be switched over to electric vehicles. So that's what we pay attention to.
Yeah, I've said that last time too. You guys gotta stop looking at it as the EV, BEV market. It's how many cars are we selling? Just start looking at it that way.
All cars will be EVs. It's it's gonna. I've said this for a long time. We'll look back. I don't know. Assuming civilization's still around in 20 years, we'll look back on internal combustion engine vehicles the same way we look back on external combustion engine vehicles, which like a steam engine. A steam engine is an external combustion engine vehicle, and there's still a few around. They're kind of quirky and kind of cool collector's items. That's how gasoline cars will be in the future.